Round 7 A-League men's, plenty to discuss. Another dramatic weekend, plenty of talking points, plenty of storylines that are continuing to develop. It is still early on in the season, but yet again, another week of surprises, another week of drama. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you enjoyed the weekend of football. And for the next hour or so, we are going to do a live discussion. Jump in the live chat, join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you guys. And first of all, just your overall takeaways from the round. We're going to be going through the games one by one and discussing them each and looking at lineups, looking at stats and all that good stuff. And plenty to discuss, as I mentioned. There's a lot to get through. So we'll try to smash through all of it within an hour. I hope so. Good to see Lockie Show TV here as well in the chat. Melbourne City making their way back to slowly, but after a bit of a shaky start, a couple back-to-back away wins is big. Is big. Justin is here in the chat. Says Leckie's back, but we'll lose him, and as is for national duties. It's a big talking point as we get closer to January. It's going to be really concerning for those teams like Melbourne City, and well, to be fair, there probably aren't too many other teams. I mean, maybe Joe Gouch from Adelaide United. It's going to be a worrying time, especially if it was a funny thing. I mean, obviously we want the Socceroos to do well, but those clubs are really going to miss those key players. All right, good to see Troy here as well. Says, hey, Lockie, great weekend of A-League action. Master FUT is a Wellington Phoenix fan, of course. You can tell by the icon. Says, why are you going to do me bad with that thumbnail? Of course, one of the big results from the weekend was Wellington losing at home. That's going to be one of the big matches that we'll definitely focus on tonight. Good to see Jacob here, Brisbane Roar fan. Jacob, hope you're doing well. Of course, I'm sure you would have enjoyed that Roar win away to Adelaide on Sunday Arvo. Luke is here. Jets with the upset. You're definitely going to say it's an upset. I mean, Newcastle heading into that game with not the best form. Wellington top of the ladder heading into the weekend. Yeah, man. And that's right. As Lockie TV show says here in the chat, rematch grand final. Of course, Lockie, I assume you're referring to upcoming this weekend on Sunday. It's Melbourne City, Central Coast Mariners, a rematch of last season's grand final. And towards the end of the live stream, we'll be looking ahead, doing a little preview of the upcoming fixtures. Of course, I do my weekly predictions video, which you'll see come out later on in the week as well. Ashton's here as well. So good to see you guys tuning in nice and early as well, because it's good to see Melbourne Victory get a win. And it was a massive win indeed for Melbourne Victory. Hey, let's jump into it. Let's talk about some football. And speaking of Melbourne Victory, we're going to focus on them first up. We're going to go through all the games one by one. And first of all, Western Sydney Wanderers 3, Melbourne Victory 4. What a game. What a result. And what a day for Bruno Fornaroli, who now has 11 goals to start the A-League men's campaign. What a match this was. And really dramatic scenes late on. Valentino Yule made his Western Sydney Wanderers debut and scored late on, made it really interesting. Marcus Andersson, the Swedish striker for Wanderers, grabbed a couple goals as well. And this was a game, I mean, heading into this one, I was expecting a pretty tight match, but I did tip a Wanderers win, as I think probably most people would have, considering Wanderers' really strong start to the campaign. But it was Melbourne Victory who really showed up and looked really, really impressive for just about the whole game. Two strong lineups, as we know. Plenty of dangerous personnel on both sides. Let's have a little glance at the lineups here. Heading into this game, Western Sydney Wanderers strong as always. Of course, no Brandon Barella, who's out for a little while with injury. Marcus Andersson grabbing a couple more goals in this game. I thought Jordan Hendricks was very good in midfield. Of course, Josh Brolante coming up against his former side as well. Melbourne Victory, though, this lineup is really a lineup that we could see, competing all the way into May as we approach finals. Adama Traore back in the lineup. Damien De Silva's there as well. I do like that back line there for Melbourne Victory. Interesting decision by Tony Popovich to leave Jason Guerrier on the bench, opting for Connor Chapman at right back as well. Zinedine Machash obviously once again had a great game. Very physical, very strong. Jake Brimmer slowly, obviously not having too much of an influence on the game, but a couple consecutive starts to Jake Bruma is a big positive for Melbourne Victory fans. So obviously these aren't exact formations, but as we look at the stats as well, quite an interesting picture here. Hey, Western Sydney Wanderers, 19 shots, 4 on target. It was Victory who were, look at that, 8 shots on target out of 9 total shots is really quite an impressive shot accuracy there. But Victory really set the tone with those early goals, and Wanderers were really chasing the game for much of it, and almost caught them in the end. Let's have a look at the chat. How are we feeling about this one? It was indeed a late scare for Victory. I mean, I was watching it at the end. I was just waiting for that Wanderers equaliser to come in. I was like, oh my gosh, the scenes amongst the Wanderers fans if that had gone in, hey. And Marcy FUT says he turned it off at 4-1, then later I had a quick score check and turned it back on. It's sad I turned it off. Dude, I know, right? I mean, that's the thing with A-League games, right? They can change at a moment's glance. And this one certainly did. Good to see Nama in the chat as well. So look, disappointing for West Sydney Wanderers considering how solid they've been to start off the campaign, the season. And it's a match that I think they'll be disappointed with how they went about playing throughout much of the game. They were second best. And, we saw a lot of changes in that second half. Oscar Priestman came on and I thought he did a decent job. We might see more youngsters come into the lineup for Wanderers next week, I'd expect. But the big talking point coming away from this game, and it's a question for you guys. I know you guys, we have a lot of discussion here. You guys pose a lot of questions to me. Some fantastic questions. I have a question for you guys right now in the chat. Join the conversation. Would you pick Bruno Fornaroli for the Socceroos Asian Cup squad? We put out a poll here on YouTube yesterday, and I think it's something around 90% yes. But tell me in the chat right now, how not only would you include him, but how does he fit into a Socceroos lineup? I mean, do you go all the way and start him? Do you start someone like Bruno Fornaroli in that first group stage match against India? The Asian Cup is just a month away, and Bruno Fornaroli is right up there as, if not the most informed striker that Socceroos have available to them now. Look at TV show says no. Nama says Bruno Fornaroli, 4 goals again, surely has to be considered for the, I assume you mean their Asian Cup there, Nama. Andrew, good to see Andrew in the chat here, says yes, easily yes, Master FUT. Jacob has put his 3 strikers here for the Socceroos. Says Bruno, McLaren, and Duke as the 3. I think I've got to go with you there as well, Jacob. Those are some great options. Look, where do you want to include Cassini Yengi in there? Obviously didn't have too much of an impact in the recent Socceroos World Cup qualifiers. But you've got great experience in those 3 in Fornaroli, McLaren, and Duke. Hey, that's right. Yeah, surely out of the A-League strikers, he is. Yes, yeah, for sure. I mean, 11 goals in 7 games. He's far and away the best striker in the league right now. Fantastic form. And I definitely think he could be, I think he's nailed on now for the Asian Cup. Hey? Tony as well says, yes, from a Wanderers supporter, you pick players on form. Absolutely. And that's especially when it comes to strikers, man. It's just, they go through periods where every shot's finding the back of the net. And that's what's happening right now with Bruno Fornaroli. And it's exciting, the idea of him combining, with the likes of, Connor Metcalf, who was really creative for the Socceroos in the recent qualifiers as well. Combining with Metcalf, combining with, Martin Boyle, with crosses from the likes of Geordie Boss and Lewis Miller. Bruno Fornaroli, a great thing I love about Bruno Fornaroli is he's capable of scoring a variety of goals as well. I mean, we think back to last week when he scored that incredible curling effort from outside the box against Mariners. Jacob says, will be interesting with Duke for the Asian Cup because the season has ended. It's a fair point there, Jacob. I'm sure he still will be included. So it's a big debate, that's for sure. But I mean, I think Graham Arnold has no choice at this point. Like the conversation has come up sort of week by week as Bruno Fornaroli has been in good form. But I think it's inevitable now that Bruno Fornaroli will be included in that Socceroos squad. I think there's no choice now. There's no question about it that he's in arguably the form of his A-League career. I mean, this is a guy who just scored. I mean, another big occasion for Bruno Fornaroli, hey? He scored his 100th A-League goal. Many of them scored for Melbourne City as well as Perth Glory. He is unstoppable right now at Melbourne Victory. And if he keeps up this form, he will break the scoring record. He will, win the Golden Boot. And he was, when I say break scoring record, I mean for a single season, which was set by Bobo from Sydney FC. And he could well go on to win the award for best player in the competition this season. Good point here from Justin as well. His involvement in the build-up is a great asset as well. Absolutely. He's a guy that loves to get involved, and that's something that differentiates him from someone like Jamie McLaren, who is more of a goal poacher inside the box. That's what McLaren is very good at. And I do think McLaren is a great option for the Socceroos to have. Fornaroli provides something different. So, good to see Cody Commander in here as well. So big win for the Mighty Bulls. Cody, very happy with the Bulls win on the weekend. We will be touching on the game very, very shortly. Good to see Tay in the chat as well. We will definitely be talking about Adelaide United later on in the stream as well. Frenzy Rabbit is here, says big statements from Victory and Brisbane this week, as well as, I guess you could say, Jets, Mariners. I mean, so many teams picking up dramatic wins. But we're going to move on to the next game very, very shortly. West Sydney Wanderers 3, Melbourne Victory 4. Melbourne Victory still undefeated in this A-League season. It's Western Sydney Wanderers whose undefeated run comes to an end, which will be disappointing. Very, very disappointing. But let's actually have a quick glance at the ladder, how it looks. This is the ladder here. MacArthur obviously sit on top. It's West Sydney Wanderers, who dropped down non-victory following this win, jumped over them into fourth place on the ladder, still undefeated. Their Melbourne Victory, 3 wins, 4 draws. They'll be very happy to end that run of draws as well. That was 4 consecutive draws there, as you can see from Melbourne Victory. Finally getting the 3 points. All right. We've got plenty of games to talk about. We're going to go through the games one by one. We just finished chatting about Wanderers' victory, which was probably the game of the round. And we're going to go back to where the weekend started, Friday evening. Central Coast Mariners 4, Western United 0. And this result, look, I'm a Mariners fan. You can see from the jerseys in the background. Very, very pleased with my team's performance. What did you guys make of it? Let me know in the chat. This was a match where, look, 11th v 12th, and Western United were maybe viewing this as a game where they could finally snap that losing run and get a result here. But as John Aloisi, he himself said that this was, he himself said after the match that this was the worst match he had seen his team play since he'd taken over as head coach. And I think he's spot on. I mean, they were really, not only were Mariners good, Mariners were very, very good, but Western United were simply awful. It was a lackluster performance in every aspect, and Central Coast Mariners capitalised on that. I mean, Dan Hall, Brian Kaltak sold at the back, chipping with some goals. Josh Nisbet was running the show in midfield. And I think Mariners are now maybe finally found the right sort of approach and attack with the likes of Jing Reese and Miguel De Pizio, who's really developing nicely. That attacking combination with the likes of Michael Tulio as well. It's looking good for Central Coast Mariners. Let's actually have a look at that lineup that Mariners deployed for this game, which is very different to what you're seeing here. This comes from Google. Definitely not correct. More of a 4-4-2, of course, for the Central Coast Mariners. Angel Torres providing a lot of threat for the Mariners as well. The interesting thing for Western United, and when we look at their lineup here, it's a strong team. And it's the thing that's really puzzling. I mean, there's a bunch of these guys who won the championship with Western United a couple of years ago. I mean, Josh Risdon, Tomoki Imai, Jacob Trapp, Ben Garuccio, 4 very experienced A-League defenders. Look at the midfield. Pena, Lustica, Thurgate, Danzaki, all very good midfielders. And then a front 2 of Bodich and Wales. And look, Aloisi was forced into some changes at half-time, bringing on Rukavitia, bringing on Sebastian Pasquale, some different options. It still didn't work. What's going wrong with Western United? Is it a mentality thing? Something's clearly going wrong there. Really, really worrying. Lockie TV show says if West United don't put on a good performance, John Aloisi might lose his job. I think you're right. Justin says West United look lost, just going through the motions. Good to see Anton here in the chat as well. Hope you're doing well, man. Cody asks, any Mariners players you felt didn't play to their best? Not that I can think of. It was the first game this season where I was really impressed with everyone really in this match. I think everyone put in a decent shift in the end. But it was a pretty easy game, you got to say, in the end for Central Coast Mariners. It was pretty. It was a cruisy performance against a very, very lackluster side. Jacob has a comment here regarding the West United tactical setup. Says they should go for a 4-3-3 with Pena at cam, Bodic as a lone striker. Would suit them both so much more. Yeah, that would be interesting. It's definitely something that I'd like to see them deploy, especially to get Daniel Pena, get him more involved in the side. He's not having enough of an influence. This is a guy, Daniel Pena, who was so good for Newcastle just a couple of years ago. So good. Assisting goals, scoring goals. And a lot of that came from playing in a central area, as you mentioned there, Jacob, playing in sort of as a central attacking midfielder. Maybe that's what they need to do, West United, rather than deploying Pena in a right-sided midfield position, which he did play there a little bit for Newcastle, but I just don't think it suits him. I don't think it suits him, man. So, look, they have to change it up. But the problem is, for John Aloisi, is that he might be running out of time. And the question out of this game for you guys is, should Western part ways with coach John Aloisi? Has time run up for John Aloisi at West United? This is a guy who's clearly a decent coach. He won the championship with West United in the 2021-22 season. A solid grand final win over Melbourne City, which wasn't that long ago, dude. Less than 2 years ago. Should they part ways with John Aloisi? Is he, they run out of time? And I'm worrying because the way it's going, the way it's trending, there's no way that they're going to catch the teams who are starting to charge forward in the top six. Here's a look at the form and how it looks for West United. They currently sit bottom of the ladder, 12th place. That one win came in the opening round of the season, 2-1 against Melbourne City. Since then, 6 consecutive losses. And maybe even more alarming than that, across the entire season, the team that contains the likes of Daniel Pena, Noah Botic, Nikita Rukavica, Ricky Danzaki, this team has only scored 3 goals. Are you telling me that all these players are on poor form? I'm not sure. Something's clearly going wrong there, and something has to change. Is it John Aloisi? I do think he's a good coach on his day, but I'm worried. I'm worried. As John points out there, yeah, I mean, minus 13 goal difference already after 17 rounds is just shocking. 3 scored, 16 conceded is unacceptable. Cody says, give him more time. Look, to be fair, it is early on in the season, and maybe this West United side will come good. But I think another factor that does play into this is West United coming off last season's championship, the season before championship. They failed to make finals, and that was disappointing for Western. They were inconsistent last year. They just missed out. They finished 7th in the end. But I think coming off the back of that, there's almost over the past couple of seasons now, there's just a downward trend for West United, and it has to stop somewhere. Andrew says 1 or 2 more games. Andrew says 1 or 2 more games. Frenzied Rabbit says I give JA 2 more games before getting the boot. He's running out of time, right? I mean, every single loss now at this point puts immense pressure on him. And I'm probably with you guys, actually. Maybe a couple more games just to see if they can turn it around. As Aloisi had pointed out, fair enough, in some of his recent interviews, some of the losses they have had, they haven't been terrible, and they have been narrow. But yeah, the loss against Mariners was just really rock bottom for Western United. Tony here in the chat mentions that West United had an unbelievably solid defence 2 years ago, not to mention a fantastic striker. So you're talking about Prijovic there, Tony. Yes, fair point, absolutely. And again, like going back to that lineup, man. Like that's why it's so weird. They've still got Ben Garuccio, Tsamoki Imai. These lineups coming from Google here. If we pull it up again. Tsamoki Imai, Ben Garuccio, Josh Risdon, these guys were part of that championship winning side. Leah Lacroix was there, but obviously not at the club anymore. So yeah, it's worrying. It's worrying at the moment for West United. John makes a point here, says winning a championship affords Aloisi a bit of leniency. Probably right there as well, John. Tay Burns in the chat says Western could make the 6. Well, if they do, they have to turn around quick because they're running out of time, aren't they? They certainly are running out of time. So, plenty of tension, I'm sure, at West United at the moment. They need to turn it around as soon as possible. And as some of you guys mentioned, there is a Aloisi derby coming up Friday. West United host Brisbane Roar. Must-win game for West. They need to turn it around. It's going to be tricky, though. It's going to be tricky. All right, we've got plenty more to discuss. Wellington losing to Jets, City winning away to glory, MacArthur and Brisbane getting away wins as well. So much going on. So glad you guys can join me here for this live round 7 recap. Join the conversation, jump in the chat. If you want to support the channel and the stream, hit the like button. You can also consider sending through a super chat. The super chat gets highlighted so I can see it come up, and it's a great way to support me and the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Let's talk about our next match. It is Perth Glory, Melbourne City. We are going through the round now. The next Friday night match was Perth Glory 1, Melbourne City 2. And it's a great result for Melbourne City, who have had a bit of a shaky start to this season. Some up and down form in the Champions League as well. They've shown good signs, but they have struggled throughout parts of the season. But a couple consecutive away wins in the A-League is very nice for Melbourne City, just to stabilise things a little bit. Let's jump into Melbourne. Let's talk about Melbourne City first of all, actually. And interestingly enough, no Steven Ugarkovic. He was benched again for this game. Lineup isn't quite accurate. Of course, we did have Matthew Leckie playing a bit higher on that left wing. Good to see Leckie back playing football. Obviously keen to get himself involved in that Asian Cup squad next month. Togo Arslan, once again, looking good in this game. I think Hamza Saki is a fantastic midfield player as well. There was a mistake from Alessandro Lapane in this game. He gave the ball away at the back, which gifted Perth Glory that goal. But overall, City were probably, you're going to say, deserved this win. They were impressive. I guess the Perth Glory side, as we have a look here at their lineup, again, there's been a little bit of chopping and changing here. Trent Osler was thrown in at left back. They've tried a few different places at left back so far. Perth Glory, Osler started there. It's a good lineup. They've got good players there, but it's just not. They don't have enough to compete with the top teams in the league. You know what I mean? And that was my concern for Glory heading into this season, and it's turning out in that way. Mustafa Amini did make a return for Perth Glory in this game. Great to see him back playing football. James here in the chat says, rate Stadge highly, but some of his tactics and personnel decisions have been quite questionable. I think he's been doing a decent job considering what he's working with. And look, being a Mariners fan, I know what Alan Stadge can do. He did a fantastic job with my Central Coast Mariners a few years back. Frenzied Rabbit here. Good to see you in the chat as always. Frenzied Rabbit says, I feel this was more a story of Perth instead of City. Despite the way City played, I think they're still trying to get back to their old form. Yeah, and I think City will play finals football this season. They're too good for that. Too good to miss out on finals, I should say. Jacob says those fullbacks aren't ideal. Look, Johnny Contrumbus and Trent Osler, yeah, two guys who earlier on in their careers maybe weren't fullbacks. You know, we've seen Trent Osler play further up the pitch as a winger. Contrumbus traditionally in his past has been a central defender. Yeah, they don't really have the ideal fullbacks, hey? Justin here regarding Melbourne City. As we scroll once again down to their setup. So Saki suits the defensive midfield role more than Ugarkovic, but Leckie made a big difference. He did. I mean, Matthew Leckie, just with his class, experience, his strength, his pace, he's got everything, doesn't he, Matthew Leckie? I did like Saki at defensive midfield. I was surprised to see Ugarkovic benched once again, and Hamza Saki is fantastic, great distribution, and held down the fort well in defensive midfield. So it's a good shape overall. Obviously, no Nunareshi still out with injury, and they're doing well to balance, Asian Champions League commitments. They've got a big game tomorrow night, don't they? Melbourne City, home against Zhejiang, where they really need a win. They really need to win. So, it's a really crucial time early on in the campaign for Melbourne City. Hey, look, the question for you guys. I mean, we're talking about Melbourne City a lot, but the question for you guys is a simple one. What's going wrong with Perth Glory? What is going wrong with Perth Glory? This is a team who, they've got a good coach now on the stage. They've got a decent team, but for whatever reason, it's just not really working out for them right now. They're not getting the results, and the football they're playing is a little bit, look, I don't want to say boring, but it's lacking something, isn't it? It's really, like watching them. I don't feel very inspired watching Perth Glory as a football team. And look, nothing against Perth Glory as a club. But as we look here on the ladder, Perth Glory currently sits second bottom on the ladder. It's 4 points from the opening 7 games. That's 1 win, 1 draw. That's 5 losses. And as you can see here, 4 consecutive losses now for Perth Glory. So it's getting a little bit worrying. Again, still early in the season, but it's below average. It's been a pretty mediocre start for Perth Glory, who look to have scored 9 goals, which is okay across 7 games, conceded 13. Again, I do like the defensive partnership of Darryl Latchman and Mark Beavers, but something's not quite working out there at Perth Glory. What do they have to change? Is it going to come good in the end? Is it a tactics thing? James makes the point here that no owners can have a hugely detrimental effect on a squad. That's a fair point, James. We have seen a similar thing at Newcastle Jets as well. Cody's take on it is team are still trying to gel together, get on the same page. It's a fair point, Cody. When you do look at that Glory lineup, there are plenty of new players there who are still looking to integrate themselves. I mean, even guys who were there last season who didn't really play much have been integrated back in, like Luka Ivanovic, Stefan Kolikovsky, who are good young players. John says it's coming down to poor recruitment, and it's always breaking down between midfield and strikers. It's actually something that we discussed in the live watch-along the other day, I think. On Saturday night's live watch-along, I think we talked about Perth Glory briefly, and I think that I've sort of realised, I don't know if Glory fans can sort of relate to this too, but I feel like Perth Glory have sort of dropped in their quality, and they've sort of been on a decline since Diego Castro left the club, which feels like a long time ago. It was only a few years ago. And they haven't really replaced him. They haven't really found that kind of creative midfielder to play that role. Now, look, they do play sort of let's jump back to that Perth Glory lineup here. They do play a 4-4-2, a pretty flat 4-4-2 Perth Glory, and it suits the personnel that they have. And they don't really have that player at the moment, though. That's the problem, to play that creative role. I mean, Ollie Bozanic can provide a bit of creativity, but there's only so much that someone like Ollie Bozanic can do. I like Giordano Colli. He's a hardworking player, but maybe there's something in midfield that has to be tweaked there. As you mentioned there, John, it always breaks down between midfield and the strikers. Perhaps there's something that has to be tweaked in that vicinity. Friends Rover says it definitely feels like a post-Castro era. Yeah, and I don't know what they're missing. I feel like they're just missing that player. So it's worrying signs for Perth Glory early on. Again, early on in the season, of course, as we've been saying. But 4 consecutive losses isn't great. And Perth Glory, look, they've been struggling away from home as well. They've got to try and turn that around. But especially at home, man, that they would have been hoping to win this game. First home game for a few weeks, and another loss for them. Hopefully they can turn it around soon for them, for Glory fans. All right, we've got more football to talk about, plenty more to talk about, in fact. And next up, we're going to talk about Wellington Phoenix, Newcastle Jets. What a match. What a result. What a story. Just the narrative heading into this game. A Phoenix side who were heading into the weekend top of the ladder, and Phoenix fans were on top of the world, man. They were loving life. They were loving life so far this A-League season. Newcastle Jets show up, coming off the back of 2 consecutive losses. I had been impressed with Newcastle Jets. They had shown some promising signs, and it really worked out for them this game. 3-0 away in Wellington. In Wellington, as you can see here from the stats, Phoenix did create plenty of chances, had a good, solid amount of possession. Jets, early goal. Look at that. Stamatolopoulos, who, I mean, I know we've been talking about Bruno Fornaroli a lot tonight, but Stamatolopoulos is quietly having a great season for Newcastle Jets. Clayton Taylor was brilliant in this game as well. He's looking fantastic this season. Again, we love the Christmas tree formation that Newcastle Jets have been playing. Wellington Phoenix have been playing. But it started to come apart a little bit at the back for them in this game. Newcastle Jets. Robbie Stanton doing a decent job there with what he's got, playing Tommy Aquilina as an attacking right-sided midfielder. Clayton Taylor with that left-hand side, once again, fantastic. Then Episcopos back from injury, that's a positive. And Apostolos Stamatopoulos scoring goals. There's a lot of positives. And another big positive for Newcastle was keeping yet another clean sheet. A couple clean sheets already early on this season, which is a big plus for a Newcastle Jets side who are traditionally pretty leaky at the back. So he says you should do a Wellington away day. That'd be fun, eh? And shout out to the couple of Newcastle Jets fans who travelled over for it. They were given a shout out on the broadcast as well, which is great. Cody Commander questioning whether they played a 4-2-2-2. These Google, this comes from Google. These formations, they're not quite accurate. It's probably was more of just more like a 4-2-3-1, if you like. Aquilina and Taylor, playing wide. Piscopo playing just behind Stamatolopoulos. So maybe not exactly what we see there. Cody says, big ups to the Jets fans who travelled to this game. It's a team that has a lot of promise. Plenty of young players as well. They're going for a very youthful approach. Kankar, Nata, Moragas at the back as well. I thought Ryan Scott had a good game as well in goals. A clean sheet for Ryan Scott. But just a shocking result considering this Wellington Phoenix side wasn't really missing anything, man. I mean, this is a side that, Oscar Zawada was back and starting. The midfield of Pennington, Roofer, and Altai have been very good this season, and defensively they've been solid. But they were just second best for much of the game. Newcastle Jets, especially defensively, shutting things down when Wellington got forward and held them. Scoreless. Pretty remarkable, considering the narrative heading into this game. Let's jump over the ladder as well and see how it looks. Newcastle Jets obviously starting to rise up the ladder just a little bit, 8th place after that win, but it's Wellington Phoenix who just slipped down a little bit, just into 3rd place on the ladder. Wellington Phoenix, their first loss of the season. It means there's only 2 teams undefeated. That is Melbourne Victory and Macarthur FC. General in chat here says those Jets fans probably travelled to beat the heat and get a quick holiday in New Zealand. Absolutely. That Saturday was sweltering here in New South Wales. So Wellington Phoenix still in a great position. They'll want to make sure this doesn't turn into anything too serious. This first result, this first loss of the season, and that's the question for you guys. Was this result a one-off for Phoenix? Was their fantastic start to the season a bit of look, I don't want to say fluke, and I'm not saying that it was. I think Wellington Phoenix are a very good team, and I think they've already shown enough this season to deserve a place in the top 6 playing finals. Was this result a one-off for Phoenix, or are they a team who, or maybe some of the other teams in the other going to start to catch up to them this season? What do you guys think? I mean, to lose 3-0 at home against the Newcastle Jets side who aren't playing their best football of late. It's an interesting. Maybe you could just write it down to just the wonderful, unexpected nature of the A-League. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Form to be humble. Let's say it like that. Tony says, I don't dislike Wellington, but I and many of my colleagues fiercely dislike the way that they have been playing their counter-attacking football. Most of their games are quite boring to watch. Guess it's been working out for them, hasn't it? It's been working out for them. Cody makes the point here that happened to MacArthur last season. We started well, but ended up smooth, so anything can happen still. It's a great point, Cody. Yeah, I remember that. MacArthur started really well. And again, we're going to talk about the Bulls in a sec as well. Same thing could happen. I don't think it will. Jacob says it was coming. They will drop off. And on the other side of things, Frenzy Rabbits on the Jets, he says Newcastle hoping it's not a flash in the pan. Definitely the most unexpected result this week. Definitely was. And I think I said it in my predictions video. If you guys saw the predictions video that I put out last week, talking about all the games, I think I said that this game, the Wellington Jets game, I was like, this is the easiest game to predict. It's definitely going to be a Phoenix win. Don't worry about that. I was very adamant that Wellington were going to win this game, and they certainly did it. To lose 3-0 at home was very, very disappointing. Justin makes the point here that says, I think a lot of teams have been playing below themselves and have made them look better than they are. Interesting take. Definitely a shock result as well. Definitely a shock result, this one. Plenty of shocks from this weekend. Wellington Phoenix 0, Newcastle Jets 3, a dramatic one. We've still got a few more games to talk about, so let's jump into it right now. And we did a live watch-along, so if you guys were there for it, thanks so much for joining me, of course, for our Saturday night A-League watch-alongs. We're going to be live this coming Saturday for the Big Blue, Melbourne Victory, Sydney FC. Very much looking forward to that one. Sydney FC at home once again and losing once again to yet another Sydney rival team. MacArthur FC are now top of the ladder after winning 2-0. And this was a fascinating game. I mean, early on in the contest, we obviously saw that red card to Andrew Redmayne. As you can see here, 15 minutes in on that 15-minute mark, Andrew Redmayne being sent off after he was adjudged to have handled the ball outside the box. Bit of some people a bit torn over the decision. I thought it was a red card. It looked like he handled the ball. It looked like he was his upper arm below the shoulder. So I think it was the correct decision. Jake Holman scores soon after against his brother Corey Holman. And then Valerie Germain scores late on, and he really should have had 2 in this game, Valerie Germain. Sydney FC created plenty of chances. They did have a lot of shots. As you can see, they're just a 4 on target, which isn't great. But they were bombarding MacArthur for much of this game. And it was MacArthur who were really doing a good job to hold on defensively. 10 corners there for Sydney FC as well. Interesting to see the foul count as well. Look at that, 24 fouls committed by MacArthur FC. The Bulls, I was really impressed with them in the defense. This isn't exactly what we see. This isn't the exact lineup. Uli develop playing a bit higher up in the pitch, but it's roughly correct. It's Milica Joski is doing a really good job at MacArthur at the moment, and they're one of the more underrated sides in the A-League. And I know, Cody, you're here in the chat. You're a Bulls fan, and I'm sure you'll be very happy with the way they're looking at the moment. And hopefully for Bulls fans, it isn't like last season where they started well and then fade away. They can maintain this form. Isaac Hovar making rest, A-League start as well at left back to replace Ivan Guiza. But I was very impressed with the Aspro Potamides, Tommy Uskok as well. You'll see Davila's having a great season so far. Loving the midfield duo of Lewis and Bacchus as well. And Valerie Germain grabbing another goal for MacArthur FC. Very valuable goal at the very end. Cody says, Stajovski cooking. And he's a guy that maybe many people were very skeptical. Look, I was surprised when towards the end of last campaign, when Bulls were looking like they were hitting rock bottom, that they were like, no, we're signing up Stajovski to a 2-year contract or whatever it was. And, hey, it's working out, hey. It's working out. Frenzy Rabbit says, it's so odd to see Sydney in the form they're in. They're just really struggling for consistency at the moment, Sydney FC, aren't they? Cody says that Holman's goal was a beauty. It was very nicely taken. Very, very nicely taken. Frenzied Rabbit here in the chat mentions that funny that despite being a man up, MacArthur seemed quite happy to let Sydney have the ball. Yeah, if you tuned into the game and weren't aware of the red card after 15 minutes, you wouldn't pick it. MacArthur were just happy to, I don't want to say park the bus, but they were happy to let Sydney have the ball, which is the way they play MacArthur FC. They play fantastic counter-attacking football. They are probably the best counter-attacking team in the competition. Matt Miller with his pace, Jakey Holman was on the left in this game, and they've got great options off the bench. I mean, if I just want to scroll down to the bench and highlight this Bulls bench because it's one of the best benches in the league for me. Daniel Da Silva, fantastic player. Ollie Jones, good defensive backup. But Borges Rodriguez, Charles Mombois, Jed Drew, even Ali Ogla, who didn't even play this game. I mean, all these guys, great options to bring off the bench. You compare that to a Sydney FC bench who took a very youthful approach. But I would pick that Bulls bench over that Sydney FC bench, personally, just based on form. Tay Burns makes a point here regarding Sydney FC, and we should focus on Sydney FC here because it's quite hard to pick what exactly is going wrong here. Tay Burns mentions that Sydney have the best squad in the A-League. They're up there with one of the classiest squads in the league. When you look at them on paper, plenty of solid options. And look, still no Jack Rodwell. He's been out with injury for a little while now. But, I mean, they've got great experience with Grant, with Bratton, the quality of Lolly and Mac, who are having good seasons so far. Maybe hoping for a couple more goals. Patrick Wood is a good player, I think. Fabio Gomez still trying to find his feet at the moment in the A-League. Fabio Gomez, Brazilian striker with great attributes, just not coming together just yet. Still just the one goal in the competition so far. Drogba in the chat, good to see here, mate. Says De Villa gotta be winner for the Alex Tobin. Well, if he keeps up this form, he certainly could be a contender. He certainly could be. He's playing really, really good football. Troy here mentions that MacArthur are looking dangerous this season. Seeing moments of their debut season. They were very good in their debut season. And of course, in that debut season back in 2020, they were one game off the grand final. They defeated yours and my Citrus Mariners, Troy, in that elimination final number all the way back in 2020 or 2021. I can't remember now. It was a long time ago. Cody, who is a Bulls fan himself, says definitely the best season since debut. Frenzied Rabbit, with a comment on Sydney FC as well, says Sydney feels best on paper, but ever since seeing their first half Australia Cup final performance, I've seen some fragility this season, and that's the task now. For Tala. Can he tighten the things up at Sydney FC? Tighten things up defensively? Because you look at them on paper, and it's a great team. They really should be winning most of their games. And you look, there's always a lot of pressure at Sydney FC. They're a team that demands success, that expects success. They're the most successful club in A-League history. And I think they have the team to play finals football this year. But, hey, we'll see. They're just struggling for consistency at the moment. Question for you guys, though, out of this game. And it's a big one. And I want you guys to think about this. I want you guys to think about this for a second. Here's the question on the screen right now. Are the Bulls championship material? It's a big question, I know. And I know we're only 7 rounds into the season, and I don't want to jinx anything. Yes, the Bulls started great last year, picked up the wooden spoon in the end. But you guys, as you guys are saying, they're looking as good as they have ever in their existence. And they currently sit top of the ladder. 4 wins, 3 draws. No losses. Defensively, they're good. And they've got a never-die spirit in games too. They've come back a couple of times. They had an incredible comeback win against Adelaide last week. They scored late to win against Western United early on in the season as well. But it's a simple question. Are Bulls championship material? Are you convinced that team could finish top of the ladder And not only finish the top of the ladder, but win a final series as well. Troy says, top 4 material for me. They're definitely dangerous this season. Frenzied Rabbit says, if they don't get key injuries, yes, they are. But they're not alone. You're right, Frenzied Rabbit. I think there's a few other teams who will definitely contest them for the top. Good point there, Frenzied Rabbit. We know what happened to the Bulls last season when they lost Uli Davila through injury. Struggled a little bit. Tayburn says no. Jacob says that season when they had Benyat, Derbyshire, Susayeta was so exciting. Yes, that debut season, indeed. Cody as well is backing a top 4 finish. And as I just mentioned, yeah, of course, Davila. Cody says, and please can Davila remain injury-free for 1 season? If he does, not only will Bulls be playing finals football, but he could see himself pick up the Johnny Warren medal. Justin says, top 4 certainly in the mix. It looks like it'll be tight at the top this season. Hopefully we get an exciting title race, eh? Tate says, for the top 4, says Brisbane, Victory, Wanderers, Sydney. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, obviously Sydney's the one that has to do a lot of catching up, hey? But I could definitely see Brisbane, Victory, Wanderers there, absolutely. Sydney have a great squad on paper. If they can get it, if they can tie things together and pick up some wins, and they could definitely see themselves up there as well. And it's a great point that Cody makes here. If we didn't drop points when we bottled it against City, we would be well clear right now. Yeah, man. That's hopefully they won't go think back and that could be a crucial result come the end of the season. Bulls were up 3-1 away to City and really should have won the game. Ended up drawing 3-3. And Sam's in the chat. Hey, Sam says, how's it going, Lockie? Always good to see you. Your lives makes my day sometimes. Sam, thanks, man. Thanks for that comment. That's very kind of you. And I'm doing well, Sam. Very, very good to have you here in the chat. And hope you're enjoying your Monday. Hope all you guys are enjoying your Mondays. And if you want to support the stream here, you want to support the channel, hit the like button if you haven't done so already. And you can also consider sending through a super chat in the chat, which helps out the channel. And yeah, man. Troy here as well with a comment. Says, it shows no good. We were last season. It's very hard in the A-League to have consistency. That is true. Of course, other teams were just as good as us last season, though. It's all open to play for. That's right, Sammy. Yes, we did actually just a moment ago talk about the Knicks-Jets result. This is up the Jets, big win against the Knicks, and proved everyone wrong. It was a shock result. No one saw it coming. No one saw it coming. Question here from Tay regarding Mariners and MacArthur FC. Will Central Coast Mariners or MacArthur win the AFC Cup? Hey, I'd love to. I love my Mariners to win it. I think those teams. I think our A-League teams have shown in the AFC Cup that they could well go deep into the knockout stages. Yeah. Look, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, and it's a great time to watch the Australian sides playing the AFC Cup. It's a different level to the Asian Champions League. There's been some mixed results. There's been some big wins, but there's also been some tough matchups. So I think we could see the A-League sides, get deep into the knockout stage. I hope so, at least. Cody says, honestly, love either to win. Would be great for Aussie football. Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to see MacArthur win the AFC Cup as well. And personally, I hope City get through to the knockout stage in the Asian Champions. They need to win tomorrow night against Asia. We have one more game to talk about before we wrap up. We're going to wrap up in about 8 minutes or so. On the half an hour. Adelaide United 0. Brisbane Roar 2. We always get a lot of Brisbane Roar fans in the chat. I don't know what it is, but the channel always seems to attract a lot of Brisbane Roar fans. We love you, our Brisbane Roar fans. And hey, Roar fans are happy at the moment right now. You look at that ladder. You sit in second. Another win on the road. Always a tough place to go, Cooper Stadium. One of the best stadiums in the competition. Brisbane Roar winning 2-0. And not only was it impressive for Brisbane to win 2-0, but it was impressive to keep Adelaide scores at home, which is very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. And Brisbane are cooking. We're talking about MacArthur cooking at the moment, but Brisbane, oh man. It's coming good for them this season, which is great to see. They've been a little bit poor last couple of years, but Ross Aloisi is doing a fantastic job. And we'll focus on that Raw lineup first of all. Here's a look at it. Jay O'Shea, he himself says he's in the form of his life. Not form? The form of his AO career. I believe he's something up on his life. Hey, I thought Jez Lofthouse was very good in this game. He scored that first goal of the afternoon. Mile Jusnic was very, very good in that right wing. Very dangerous, I thought, against his former side. Defensively, they've been solid too. And this win was even more impressive, considering the circumstances, because Brisbane Roar lost 2 players from their back 4 in the first half. Bert Gilroy and Scotty Neville off injured. And it was maybe looking a little bit worrying after those couple of injuries, but they dug deep and they did a fantastic job. You know, the substitutes did a great job. Louis Obama, Truin coming in and slotted in very nicely. And you compare this to, if we focus on Adelaide's lineup here just for a sec, it's a good Adelaide lineup, isn't it? I mean, Zach Clough is in great form this season. Aaron Kunda, quiet this game, wasn't he? He didn't have too much to do. Came off relatively early on in that second half. And as we could see, he was distraught, man. The cameras have shown. Nestor Kunda was distraught after being substituted off. Luki Ivanovic, again, very quiet in this game. Ben Halloran was okay. But in the end, you get to say Brisbane deserved the result. Will Joyce says up the Raw. Frenzy says, yeah, the Raw. TJ Peno, thanks for all your do. TJ Peno, thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Tay says that Tunnicliffe and Hiroshi should be starting. I agree. 2 players with great experience, with good physicality. I think Hiroshi Ibisugi should be restored to the starting lineup ahead of Ivanovic. It hasn't quite worked out for Ivanovic in his last couple of games. What year is the Celtics shirt in the background? Good question. I'm actually not sure. Someone in the chat the other week knew the answer. I think it's something from the 90s. I do have Scottish heritage, so that's where the Celtic jersey comes from. But thank you for the question, Nathan. Alex here says, I'm not sure if Calvert knows his best starting, I assume you mean best starting lineup there, Alex. You might be right there, Alex. He has been chopping and changing a little bit. And, I mean, even defensively, still playing around. I mean, last week he started Nick Ansell and Alex Popovic. This week, completely different centre-back partnership. Lockie Barr, Ben Warland. And again, it didn't quite work out. I'm also very curious about Bobolina. I think he's got plenty of potential, Bobolina. But there was a couple of times where Adelaide was caught out. Bobolina loves to get forward, but a couple of times he was caught out. And the problem is as well, especially with that right-hand side for Adelaide United, where Iran Kunda was playing on the left for most of this game as well. Iran Kunda did not track back at all this game, unfortunately. So I'm not sure whether that's something that has to be changed in this game. Can they coach Iran Kunda to track back a bit more, help out the fullback? But that's where Adelaide were getting caught out plenty of times in this game as well. Tay says here, without Gauci, they would have lost 5-0. Nicholas, thank you for that comment. Nicholas says the Raw CEO claimed they were adding players to both the men's and women's teams in the upcoming transfer window. Interesting. Yeah, I'd be very curious to see where Brisbane's strength, and overall they're pretty good. And the young players coming in and doing a decent job too, hey. Hey, Sam. Yeah, actually, I was thinking of doing exactly that. Once it comes close to it, would you do an Asian Cup squad prediction? Yeah, that's definitely that idea. So, this Brisbane Roar side looking good at the moment. Sorry, see in a second on that ladder. But the question is, where will Adelaide finish this season? Because I think this is a tricky question, right? I think it's a tricky question because Adelaide, similar to sort of Sydney, as we talked about earlier, a team who is struggling for consistency. And on Google here, we'll whack up the ladder again. Adelaide sits 6th on the ladder, and they're a team who, well, for most of the last season, they were towards the top, weren't they? 3 wins, 1 draw, 3 losses. This feels like a pretty common theme for this club, Adelaide United. They tend to be pretty inconsistent and mid-table. 17 goals scored. A lot of goals. That's the best in the league, isn't it? It is. No one in the league has scored more goals than Adelaide United this season. But they have conceded 13, which is the equal 3rd worst defence for having ladder here in the league. A lot of goals scored, a lot of goals conceded. They've had fantastic performances. They smashed Melbourne City at home, and they lost 5-1 to Sydney FC at home. And you just never know when you're going to get. So it's a tricky question, and I need some help from you guys. Where will Adelaide fit into this season? I don't know. In my ladder prediction before the season started, I called Adelaide to struggle. I think the loss of Craig Goodwin was a big one. So far, they've replaced him pretty well. Nessery Conte has been starting pretty much every week. But I don't know where Adelaide are going to finish this season. I don't. I can't predict anything. Tay says probably around 6th. Jacob says 4th to 6th. Nicholas says 8th. Cody reckons they'll just miss out on finals. And if I had to give you an answer, I think that might be where I'll fall now. I think they might fall out. I think they might fall out of finals this year. Maybe not as far as I initially predicted. I think I initially predicted like 10th. I think maybe that 7th, 8th position where they'll just slip out of the top 6. Yeah, man. Troy's backing 5th for Adelaide. Will's also backing 7th and 8th as well. So the overall consensus, Andrew as well, 7th. And you're right there, TJ. Yeah, Adelaide had more shots on goal, failed to score, and you know that's again why I think someone like Hiroshi Basuki needs to be back in that starting lineup. He's a great finisher. TJ Penner also mentions here that 14 corners and couldn't score off a set piece. I have to say, Mariners got a nice goal for corner. They did indeed. Very nice. Couple goals off corners for the Mariners. And TJ Penner also chimes in saying Adelaide will go well, but no better than 5th. So the consensus from you guys here in the chat is that Adelaide will finish somewhere maybe between us high 5th and dropping down to maybe 8th. So maybe they don't have enough this year to contest for that top 4. You know, we're looking at that ladder and the teams in that top 4 now. I mean, Macarthur, Brisbane, who are looking very good so far. Wellington, who have been strong despite that loss on the weekend. Melbourne Victory up there as well. Wanderers, I think, will be very strong this year despite losing on the weekend as well. Melbourne City, I think, are going to charge back up into the top 6. And then you got, teams like Newcastle and Mariners who, are unexpected. They can cause a surprise. Some of you guys think Sydney FC will bounce back this season and finish high up the ladder as well. I don't know about Glory and Western. I know it's early days, but I can't see them playing finals this year, unfortunately, with the squad that they have. And, a question here for me, and you guys can chime in as well for this one. Thanks for the question, Frenzied Rabbit, in the chat. Where would you put Brisbane end of the season? I think Brisbane will be playing finals, and I think they have shown enough to finish top 4. I don't know if Brisbane will finish top 2. I think that's a massive ask. I think 3rd or 4th. I think Brisbane will see themselves finish in that top 4. And, you want to finish in that top 4, even 3rd and 4th, because it means you get a home elimination final. And I think Suncorp Stadium is going to be a fortress for Brisbane this season. A home elimination final will be very, very, very nice for them. Talking about some of the other teams on the ladder here. Let's have a look at what you guys are saying. Will Joyce here in the chat says, I reckon Brisbane could finish top. And I see Carlo Amiento in your profile picture there, Will. If he turns it on, scores some goals, maybe they will finish top. Justin says, Lofthouse looks good. How no one noticed him until now is strange. He just wasn't getting that much game time as well, to be fair. He wasn't getting played too much. I think he might have struggled with injury a little bit over the last couple of years, but yeah. In terms of Brisbane, we're talking about Brisbane now. Andrew's backing Brisbane for 3rd. Masters FUT reckons Brisbane at 12th. Justin says between 2 and 4 for Brisbane. Cody here with actually an interesting question. He asks does anyone know how the league will work, having 13 teams once Auckland join? It's a great question, Cody. You'd imagine if it is indeed just Auckland joining next year, there'll be a bye. I'd imagine that'll be how it works. It'll just be a bye for a team each week. I hope that doesn't happen, and instead, I hope Canberra gets announced soon. But we're running out of time. I mean, we heard earlier in the year that Canberra was the team, rumored to be joining the 80 men competition next season. Still haven't got any official confirmation, so it might just be Auckland. Master FPT asks, isn't Canberra joining? Yeah, nothing official yet. I mean, Auckland is 100% confirmed. We've got the official announcement. We've got the people in place. They announced Terry McFlynn the other day as a director of football. So, yeah, man. Surely time for Canberra. Hopefully, hey. Hopefully. Bye weeks would suck. I agree, Cody. I agree. Hopefully we do get Canberra joining next year as well. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning into the round recap. We are going to be doing this every single Monday evening around this time. I believe there is a Monday night fixture next week. So this one we're going to start a little bit later next week. Let's have a quick finish off by having a quick look ahead to next week's games. And it kicks off. It kicks off on Friday with that Aloisi derby. That is, if John Aloisi does not get sacked before Friday, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be okay for this weekend. That's the 6 p.m. These times that you're seeing on your screen right now are Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. West United, Brisbane Roar. If I had to give you an early tip for that one, I've got to say Brisbane, right? Gotta say Brisbane. They're looking too good at the moment, and Western. It's just not working out for them. Wanderers and Adelaide, another Friday night match. Should be a cracker. I think Wanderers win there. Adelaide, you just never know. I mean, Adelaide could show up and get a big win here. But I think Wanderers will respond with a win after losing yesterday. Newcastle Jets host Perth Glory on Saturday night. Now, that should be a win, you'd imagine, for the Jets against the Glory side, who they themselves are struggling. And then we're going to be live on Saturday evening. Join us on Saturday night, 7:45. That's Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Melbourne Victory, Sydney FC. The second big blue for the season. Victory 1, back in round 1. Can Sydney FC get revenge? It would be a big statement for the Sky Blues if they could get a result here. Away to victory. Melbourne Victory, though, I think will be too strong at home. I think they will win that game. And then we've got to do the action doesn't end. Melbourne City, Central Coast Mariners. It's a grand final rematch. Two teams who were just fantastic last season. And a bit lackluster maybe so far this season in the A-League. Melbourne City, Central Coast Mariners. Both teams will be coming off midweek football. Crucial fixtures this week for Melbourne City, who take on Zhejiang tomorrow night in the Asian Champions League. Central Coast Mariners will be traveling to the Philippines to take on Stallions Laguna. And then it rounds off with MacArthur SC Wellington Phoenix on Monday night. That means that our live round recap will be taking place next Monday at straight after that game at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So just an hour or so after what we started tonight. So make sure to join us next week for the round recap. I love having the conversations with you guys. We're going to jump into a couple more comments before we tune off. Here we go. Nicholas asks a great question here. Do you think Western United lose again? If Western United lose again, that John Aloisi loses his job? I think so. I think for me, one more loss, and there's just no sign of it turning around. So I think, yeah. Cheers, Cody. Says, thank you for another great stream, man. Cheers, Cody. Thanks for always tuning in there. Good to see Newey Jets here as well. It's my birthday today. Happy birthday to Newey Jets. Football makes great content for Newcastle Jets as well as just the A-League in general. The A-Leagues in general. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always, man. That's right, TJ Peno. Mariners in Philippines this week. Big fixture for the Mariners. Would love to get a win midweek. Sam as well. So see you, Lockie. I'll see you next Monday. Should be a win for the Jets also as an Arsenal fan. Nice to see Spurs being Spurs again. Of course, Spurs getting the win. Getting the win last night. And TJ Penn says Aussies going well in the AFC Cup. And hey, hopefully we do see our two Aussie sides proceed. through to the knockout stages after their matches this week. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Once again, join us Saturday night for our watch along of Melbourne Victory, Sydney FC, the second Big Blue of the season. And then join us next Monday, 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time for the round 8 Men's round recap. My name's Lockie. This is Coastwood Football. Have a fantastic week, you guys. I really mean that. Have a superb week. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.